Okay, so we're going to start chapter 2 now, and I've switched rooms on the off chance that this chalkboard will be easier for you guys to see when you're looking at the videos. And as far as chapter 2 goes, what we want to look at today, there are several formulas you need to know. They will be on your exam. You do need to know them, and you need to know how to use them. But to a certain extent, you can get by if you understand what you're doing without actually memorizing the formulas. And what I mean is, you all know what the XY axis is, the coordinate axis, whatever you want to call it. Suppose you have 2 points. You know in the first quadrant everything's positive. So say we have the point 5, 6, and maybe over here we have the point 1, 1. I want to find the distance between those 2 points. There is a formula for it, which I'll go over in a minute, but even without the formula, you can kind of figure out what's going on using geometry. And what I mean is, you draw a vertical line through this point, and a horizontal line through this point, and then connect the 2 points because we want to find the distance between them. Well, now I just have a right triangle. And now I can apply the Pythagorean theorem. In this case, let's see, this distance right here, well, x here is 1, x here is 5, so all told there's a distance of 4. For the y's, here y is 1, here y is 6, so there's a distance of 5. Now I have 2 sides of the triangle. Pythagorean theorem tells me the third side. Let's see. 4 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25. 16 plus 25 is 41. So I get 41 equals c squared, square root both sides, and you get c equals the square root of 41. And you're done. As far as it goes, that will always work to find the distance between 2 points. Draw a triangle, Pythagorean theorem, and done. So, there's one more example. Suppose we have the points, let's see, 2, 3, and now we'll go in the negative quadrant over here, and we'll get the point -3, 1. We'll do the same thing. Draw a vertical line through this one, draw a horizontal line through this one, connect the 2 points, and I have my right triangle. Now I just need to figure out my x and y again. Here, x is -3, and here it's 2, so that's a total distance of 5. Here, y is 1, y is 3, that's a total distance of 2. Now I just need to find the hypotenuse right here. Pythagorean theorem says 5 squared plus 2 squared equals c squared. 5 squared is 25, 2 squared is 4. 25 plus 4 is 29. So c squared is 29, which means c equals the square root of 29. And we're done. Nice and simple. As far as it goes, when writing out answers for homework, for exams or whatever, you don't need to put this in your calculator. If it's an application, you would to get me a numerical answer. But if you're just solving a problem to find the distance between points, you can just write the square root of 29. That's not a problem. There is a formula for this, which I'll write out, which you need to know if you're not going to use a Pythagorean theorem. It's called the distance formula. And the distance formula says the distance between 2 points is equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. But, well, you can use that formula if you want, but that's basically the Pythagorean theorem. We found the length of one side of the triangle by finding the distance between the x's and then squaring it. We found the length of the other side by finding the difference in the y's and then squaring it. Then we added them together and square rooted to get c, which is all this tells us. It's the Pythagorean theorem solved out for the hypotenuse. I don't care how you solve the problems. If you want to use a distance formula, you can. Make sure you memorize it so you can use it. If not, draw a triangle, use the Pythagorean theorem, and done. Either one works fine. Just to see this actually being used, suppose you want to find the distance between 1, 4 and 6, 9. Well, the distance formula says that distance is the difference in the x's, so 6 minus 1 squared, plus the difference in the y's, 9 minus 4 squared. 6 minus 1 is 5, 5 squared is 25. 9 minus 4 is 5, 5 squared is 25. 25 plus 25 is 50, so we get the square root of 50. And again, leave your answer like that. You don't need to bother throwing it through your calculator to solve it all out. Once we start working with the distance formula, there is one other formula that we're going to need, and you can figure out this formula using graphs and geometry and right triangles. I'm not going to bother to write all of that out, so we're just going to have to learn the formula. And the idea is the midpoint between 2 points. So suppose I have the point 1, 1 and the point 6, 8. I want to find the midpoint between them. Well, I know the midpoint is going to be somewhere right around here. And the question is, how do I find it? And essentially the idea is mathematically, when you start talking about midpoint, a middle value, when we think about middle values, we normally think about things like averages. So you can treat the midpoint like the average of those 2 points. And then once you understand that, then the formula is easy. To find the midpoint, just find the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So we get average the x's. So add them up, 6 plus 1, and divide by 2, because there's 2 of them. For the y's, add them up and divide by 2, because there's 2 of them. 6 plus 1 is 7, so we get 7 over 2. 8 plus 1 is 9, so we get 9 over 2. And that should be my midpoint right there. 7 over 2, 9 over 2. Or if you like, 7 over 2 is 3.5, 9 over 2 is 4.5. And if you actually look at your graph, this is x equal to 1, that's x equal to 6. So x equal to 3.5 in the middle? Yeah, that makes sense. Y is equal to 1, y is equal to 8. So y equal to 4.5 in the middle? That makes sense. So it works. Pretty straightforward and pretty easy for the midpoint. Average them all out. The actual formula for it, the midpoint between 2 points is x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2, which is, again, exactly what we just did to find our average. Add up the x's, divide by 2, add up the y's, divide by 2. So then, really quickly, suppose we have the points P1 is equal to 1, 4, and P2 is equal to the point 5, 9. Find both the distance and the midpoint between those 2 points. To find the distance, we'll use the distance formula. So the distance is equal to the square root of the change in the x's, 5 minus 1 squared, plus the change in the y's, 9 minus 4 squared. 5 minus 1 is 4, 4 squared is 16. 9 minus 4 is 5, 5 squared is 25. 16 plus 25 is 41. So the distance is the square root of 41. Now find the midpoint. The midpoint is the average. Add up the x's, 5 plus 1, and divide by 2. Add up the y's, 9 plus 4, and divide by 2. Then you get 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 over 2 is 3, 9 plus 4 is 13, 13 over 2. Or if you like, 6.5. You can write it either way, I don't really care. That's pretty much it. I'm going to post this video on YouTube like all the others, and let me know what you think. Let me know if this is clearer than it was with the whiteboard and markers, and if it is, then I'll do the rest of the videos for the entire rest of the semester on chalkboards.